Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in this video we'll be talking about the classes that I think are going to be safe for patch 9.1. What do we mean by that? Well, a lot of us are wondering what classes are going to be OP, which classes are going to be the strongest and get all the group invites, and which ones are going to be not as good and are probably going to get ignored. And honestly, nobody wants to be that person that just doesn't get picked because they chose the wrong class. A lot of you guys ask me all the time, what's going to be a safe choice for 9.1? What's going to be a safe pick class, no matter the buffs, no matter the nerfs? What is going to be necessary? What has unique things that are needed in raids, dungeons, or maybe even PvP? So in this video, I wanted to put together 5 classes that I think are probably the safest choice for patch 9.1, no matter the class changes. Taking a look at some of the buffs and nerfs we received, but also some of the core things that classes bring to the game that will most likely make them wanted in any group, no matter the patch. One of the core things that I think is important is having multiple specs to play. Multiple good specs with a lot of different roles that a player may pick up. We're looking at a class that can do multiple things. So obviously the first class on this list has to be Druid. 4 specs to think of. That's a lot of possibilities. Maybe Feral will be good, maybe Boomy will be good, same thing for Resto and Guardian. But right now we know that Balanced Druid has been a strong competitor for patch 9.0, and in 9.1 it's most likely going to be good. Boomies did take a bit of a nerf, but they're likely going to stay strong going to the next patch because of key things they bring that no other classes do. Take a look at Boomkins by themselves, not even just the Druid class, is you bring Innervate, which Restoration Druids also bring, but they're most likely not going to give it to other healers, where a Boomkin can give it to a Death Priest, Holy Paladin, Restoration Shaman, in order to give them infinite amounts of healing for a short amount of time. You also bring trees into Mythic Pluses, spawning 3 trees that will taunt anything that they spawn near, allowing your tanks in most cases to get a bit of a breather in Mythic Plus trash packs, especially useful in very heavy tank weeks for Necrotic and Grievous. Boomies by themselves have plenty of dots, crazy amount of AoE that is uncapped so they can hit multiple enemies at once, and generally a good damage profile where they can hit an enemy from a safe distance. But of course there's also a Feral Druid to play up to with its own specific playstyle and quite a strong amount of single target damage if you do end up playing melee. You give your group a movement speed increase with Stampeding Roar from time to time. While not everybody considers it a massive utility, it has been useful in a handful of raid fights and can be good in dungeons. You have crazy amount of off healing with Heart of the Wild, and we've seen how good that can work out in the first raid tier, really allowing druids to play on with a hybrid playstyle. And of course a battle res. A handful of classes bring a battle res, but all these things together makes a druid particularly balanced a Swiss army knife. Let's also not forget Guardian Druid, a solid tank. No matter what you say, it is a good tank and not much worse than any others. Restoration Druids, great healer. Feral Druids have some niche, great single target damage. Overall, Druid is looking like a full package in my opinion. The next class I think is going to be basically mandatory and always welcome to groups is a Mage. Fire right now has the lead, and we'll see what that looks like once 9.1 comes around. A lot of people believe Fire is going to fall off, which I personally don't agree with. Whether you end up playing Fire, Frost, or Arcane, in the end you will end up playing a Mage. For starters, all Mage bring an Intellect buff, and they're the only class that brings a buff for raids as well as dungeons as well as PvP. That means a really good mage will be mandatory inside of a raid. Even if mages are not top tier, everybody's gonna need a mage, and if you're the best of the best in your guild, you're gonna be brought in for every single raid fight. No matter the spec of mage you play, you generally have very strong cooldowns, and you also have mostly, if not fully, uncapped AoE, which can be really good for specific situations like Mythic Pluses, where you do big pulls and big burn phases. The 3 specs of mages, if you get really good at them, offer very diverse profiles of doing damage, which can be anything from being able to focus down the boss while cleaving the ads freely without losing any single target damage, to maybe just going full out all burst for a very short burst window. This can be good in the future raid tiers and Mythic Pluses because the class itself should be able to adapt to wherever you end up doing the fights and whatever strategies you must employ in order to defeat bosses. Iceblock is also a very powerful defensive that just gives mages a straight up immunity. They have other defensive tools, but an immunity to bring into raids can be important because there might be some mechanics that need to be soaked by a couple people, or you could just throw one mage on it, making the fight sometimes easier. They also have very interesting tools like Spell Steal to steal buffs from enemies to apply to themselves. Very good crowd control with roots, slows, and ranged interrupts, and because of that, I think Mage is in a really good spot for the next patch, no matter which spec we end up playing. I want to name another caster on this list as well. Warlock is another great choice for a class. Warlock as a class always comes with a bag of goodies, no matter which spec you play. For starters, Warlock cookies. No one ever rejected a Warlock's Hellstone. It's very useful when a mechanic is about to hit you and a healer just can't top you. You can always maintain yourself thanks to that Warlock. Gateway is a great tool that has been used multiple times in some of the most toughest fights of any raids of World of Warcraft, allowing a whole group to just go from A to B in a single teleport. And the gateways continue to have creative uses in Mythic Pluses as people find interesting Warlock skips to get around dungeons. Just like Druids, these guys also come with a battle res, but a more interesting version with Soulstone that can be pre-applied on an ally if they know that the ally is going to die, or for emergency situations. And all three Warlock specs have very interesting playstyles. You have a dot heavy playstyle, you have a very cleave heavy, Chaos Bolt, big burst playstyle with a lot of 2-target potential, and of course you have pets galore with the zoo that is Demonology. So already Warlocks bring a ton of different utility, but also the different damage profiles I think are going to be interesting. If anything, at least one spec of Warlock is generally going to be good for PvE content, but the things that they bring like Gateway and Cookies might as well make them mandatory. Now the next class choice, and you guys might not agree with me on this one, maybe you think I'm a bit biased, but I think Rogue is looking good for patch 9.1. Some of you guys already disagree with me, but I think that Rogues have enough qualities in order to be a safe choice going for the next patch. First of all, you have a very good output of different playstyles for the spec, different damage profiles with Assassination leading in single target, Outlaw with Great Cleave, and Subtlety being a bit of a wild card, but of course fantastic in PvP. Rogue is a class that in dungeons can take your whole team and shroud them in stealth, bypassing certain trash bags that you normally wouldn't want to run against. They are pretty self-sufficient with powerful defensives and offensives. The myriad of crowd control they have can lock down certain powerful nasty mobs, so generally they end up making your dungeon runs easier with the toolkit that they bring. It's also rumored that Blizzard might give us some sort of raid utility for patch 9.1, and if they do, then Rogue is definitely going to be a must bring into raids. But even without it so far, I do think it's one of the safer classes no matter the kind of content you're looking at, World of Warcraft, raiding, M+, or PvP. The final class on this list, and this one was very tough for me because I feel like I named every safe class in the game, and if I had to name a fifth one, this is the best one I can do, and that's going to be Demon Hunters. Demon Hunters, just like a mage, come with something that the raid needs, which is a magic debuff. While the mage brings a intellect buff for their allies, Demon Hunters debuff enemies they hit with a magic debuff, making enemies take more magic damage. Your raids are probably going to be filled with a couple Warlocks and Mages, so if you're a really good Demon Hunter, you're always going to need one. It also should be mentioned that both Havoc and Vengeance have a pretty low skill floor to start with. They're a really good entry class for new players, even those that want to tank. Vengeance to this day maintains, in my opinion, as the S tier tank right now. None of the tanks are bad, it's just Vengeance has slightly more advantage over other tanks. They're insane in Mythic Pluses, they're really good in RPGs, and they're also exceptionally good in raids. Havoc is also great too, because I know not everybody's going to want to play a tank. Havoc Demon Hunters are insane when it comes to AoE fights, and they do bring a raid utility of Darkness, which can be used on allies in order to give them extra protection. Demon Hunters also come with a massive amount of toolkits with range interrupts, dispels, Havoc has AoE stuns, and overall great mobility. There are a couple different classes I could have picked to put in this list. I thought of maybe putting in a Shaman because Elemental and Restoration are most likely going to be really good in the next tier, and I could have named a myriad of any other tanks as well as healer classes that are looking like a best in slot, like Discipline Priest and Shadow Priest for example, but I felt a safer choice would be Demon Hunters. Unlike Priest for example, who got some nerfs, Demon Hunters didn't get any, so hopefully with better gear and with even some buffs in 9.1, they'll most likely end up being some of the better class and a safer class choice for many of you. But that's gonna be my video. This one was really tough to put together, but I wanted to make sure that I took classes that I felt brought something that was unique that nobody else could bring. Of course, the meta is going to change and certain classes are going to be more popular just because they do more damage. However, because 9.1 isn't released yet, we don't have the final sims and the final numbers, it's all still in PTR and still going through iterations, we can't tell you exactly what's going to be OP. A lot of it is just suggestions and predictions, but nothing concrete. But this is as best as I could really do for you guys for some of the classes that I think are going to be the safest going into patch 9.1. Whether you want to try playing them as mains or maybe as a potential solid alt. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts. What are the 5 classes you will put in as the safest choice going into patch 9.1? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.